Okay, I've been doing talk radio for 20 years. I got in there in 1994, so it's 20 years, okay? And, I've been known to, honestly, I haven't done things to get a rise out of people, but I have certainly highlighted a point that I didn't think was that big of a deal to get a rise out of people. And I've had some pretty good shows, and I've had some pretty good bad shows, and everything in between. After 20 years of doing this, you've done quite a bit. Now, and I don't want to oversell this, and I don't want to undersell this, but if you listen to my entire rant that's coming up, this is as good of a point as I have ever made on any radio station anywhere in the last 20 years. If I do this correctly, your head should explode, and you will call me either the biggest Nazi, communist, socialist in the world, or you'll say McGraw could be the most brilliant man in the history of America. You ready? Okay, here we go. So, this VA scandal, okay? Over the weekend, there are many people calling for the privatization of the Veterans Affairs Department, including George Will, including Cal Thomas, including Forbes, including the Wall Street Journal, including Charles Krauthammer. You do not get a more conservative group of people than those. That is the gold standard of conservative people. Can we all agree so far? We're all in agreement, okay? That's the gold standard. That's the Mount Rushmore of conservatism. They're all saying, you know what? Give a voucher to the veteran and let him go buy private insurance. Okay? So far, so good. Ladies and gentlemen, what the Mount Rushmore of conservatism is saying is they want to give money so that veterans, or a voucher, money, same thing, so that these veterans can go and buy it on the open market and then be cured and to be taken care of in a much better way. Does this remind anybody of anything? Does this sound like anything to anybody? Let me help you out. They're talking about the Affordable Care Act for veterans. In other words, they're talking about Obamacare for veterans. What they want to do is they want to give veterans money so they can go on the open market and buy private health insurance, which is exactly, it's not similar, it is exactly what President Obama passed and signed into law and what conservatives have been trying to repeal since it's been approved. And that is to give Americans, either Americans who can't afford it or Americans who can afford some of it, some type of voucher so that they can go on the open market to buy health insurance. If you give the veterans this voucher, are you then forcing the veterans to buy health insurance? My phone is exploding. Because if you give the veterans a voucher, you shouldn't force them to buy health insurance, right? So maybe you give the poor people who want to expand Medicaid in this state, you give them a voucher. Let's not expand Medicaid. Let's just give them a voucher so they can go buy it. That's exactly what it is. Krauthammer, the Wall Street Journal, Cal Thomas, George Will, all want to bring the veterans to private health insurance because the VA doesn't work. They're basically calling for the veterans to join the rest of us in buying health insurance. And for those of us who can afford it on our own, we have to pay for it on our own. Those of us who can't afford it, and those of us who are working poor, you know what? They will subsidize. They will force you on some type of means testing that you must be responsible for your own health insurance. So even though you can't pay the full rate, guess what? You are forced to pay something. And that's what the Affordable Care Act does. And so this weekend, I fell off the treadmill when I heard George Will say that it's time to give the veterans a voucher, which by definition is the Affordable Care Act. Does anybody question me? Am I wrong in any way, shape, or form? Somebody please call me up and explain to me how I'm wrong in my deduction. 314-969-KTRS. 1-888-550-KTRS. Somebody, please point out to me a flaw in my logic. Anybody, anywhere, anytime. Yell at me on Twitter, Facebook, call me, write it in Sanskrit. I am dying to find out if anybody thinks I'm wrong, because I don't see it. You're a working mother of two that makes over 133% of the poverty level. The government basically pays for or subsidizes or gives you a voucher to go buy health insurance. There are some rules and regulations. You have to cover certain things, right? There's a minimum that has to be covered. There are certain things you must do. There are penalties if you don't do them. So if we give these veterans a voucher, are we going to force them to buy health insurance? So in other words, Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act is so bad, is so egregious, is so terrible, that let's stick all the veterans in the same group as us. My head is exploding because, first of all, the phones are deathly silent. I know. I warned you. I said to you, your heads were going to explode. The conservative Mount Rushmore wants to give veterans a voucher and stick them in the same terrible health insurance system that we're stuck into, but they think that's a benefit. It's so bad for us, but it's perfect for the veterans. If I'm a veteran and I'm watching this unfold, right? You just spent the last 6 years telling us how bad health insurance is, and now you want to stick all the veterans on the health insurance plan because it's so bad? What about the death panels? What about when the government runs out of money? What are you going to do then? You going to stick them all back at the VA? Ladies and gentlemen, the state of Missouri is rejecting $8 billion of federal funds so that the state can give us some type of voucher system so that we can go buy, our working poor can go buy insurance on the open market. It's not good enough for them, but it's good enough for the veterans. 314-969-KTRS, 1-888-550-KTRS, or star KTRS. All right, we got John here thinks I'm wrong. John, go ahead. What's your thoughts?
Hey, you're putting, they're talking about put them in private health providers, not private health insurance.
Okay. Private health providers, same as Obamacare.
Well, yeah, but there's no insurance. You're equating insurance in with it. It's not, they want them to be able to go to private providers.
No, they want them to go, I don't understand the difference between private providers and private insurance. I don't know what that means.
Well, there's no insurance involved. The VA will be the insurance. The VA is the insurance, but instead of being forced to go to the VA, they can go anywhere.
Yeah, kind of like buying their own private insurance.
But
so they can go anywhere.
There's no buying of insurance involved. You
have to buy insurance to go somewhere. So you just want to give them money and just pay without it, just pay the doctor straight out?
The VA will pay. is the way I understood it.
No, you're understanding it incorrectly because I'm reading straight from Charles Krauthammer. Vets get a voucher of $10,000 to purchase private insurance to go anywhere. That's Charles Krauthammer. I trust his conservative credentials more than yours. That's exactly what the federal government is doing for everybody else in Obamacare. Ed, line 2, you're on KTRS.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Ed, you're on the air.
That $10,000 runs out in a hurry with insurance, but just like they wanted to give us on our Medicare, they want to give us a $6,000 voucher. Now, when that voucher runs out, that's the amount of insurance I can have.
Whatever the number is, basically, there's these conservatives want to put the veterans into Obamacare.
That's what I'm talking about. But see, the whole thing is right now I can go to the Veterans Hospital from now until eternity and get my health care.
But
they don't want that. They don't want that. All they want you to do is spend that $10,000 somewhere else, and then they don't have to take care of me anymore. But I took damn good care of this country back in the 60s. I mean, I give them a lot back in the 60s. So they don't have to owe me nothing, but they told me they was. And now along comes Bush, puts a $24,000 cap on our money we can make and still go to veterans, but they're changing it every day. What they're trying to do is take away stuff that they told us we had.
But don't you find it interesting that all these conservatives want to put the veterans into Obamacare?
Well, you're calling them conservatives, but I'm going to tell you something. There's another word for them.
What?
Kochsucker.
All right, Ed. Thanks for the phone call.
All right.
I got it right, Ed. Thanks for the phone call. All right. I'm not arguing whether or not the voucher system is a good idea or not. I'm at least bringing to light the fact that the voucher system do away with the Veterans Affairs Department and give these citizens, these veterans, voucher, a check, cash, whatever it is, that they can then use to buy insurance on the open market through the healthcare.gov website, through Medicare and Medicaid, through the states, through some type of state exchange. These conservative icons want to bring the veterans into the Affordable Care Act. My head is exploding. 950, Big 550, KTR.